What if the most dangerous person in a courtroom wasn't the criminal? What if it was the woman laughing at the judge? Because on the morning Karen Mitchell walked into Judge Lauren Whitmore's courtroom, she believed she was untouchable. And before that hearing ended, entire country would watch her begin to fall apart in real time. The laughter started before the cameras had even settled into position. Not nervous laughter, not awkward laughter. This was something colder. Sharper, the kind of laugh that came from someone who had spent years believing rules existed only for other people. Karen Mitchell leaned back comfortably in her chair with a smug grin spread across her face, arms folded like she owned the courtroom instead of standing trial inside it. Even the audience shifted uncomfortably. There was something unsettling about the confidence she carried. Not confidence built on innocence, confidence built on power. And Karen Mitchell loved power. For nearly a decade, she had ruled over Willow Creek Estates as president of the Homeowners Association, a suburban neighborhood known for spotless lawns, matching fences, and residents too afraid to question her authority. Behind closed doors, people whispered about her constantly. Some called her the Queen of Violations. Others called her worse, but nobody ever challenged her openly. Because Karen had mastered something far more effective than kindness. Fear. Every warning letter, every fine, every complaint filed against a resident, it all fed something inside her. Karen didn't simply enforce rules, she enjoyed controlling people with them, and today was supposed to be another victory. Across the courtroom sat Lillian Cortez, a quiet mother of two whose only crime, according to Karen, was destroying neighborhood standards. The alleged violation: sunflowers, tall yellow sunflowers planted in her own front yard. Karen claimed they disrupted the visual harmony of the neighborhood, blocked sightlines, and violated landscaping codes. To most people, the lawsuit sounded ridiculous. But Karen treated it like a matter of national security, which was exactly why television producers picked up the case: an arrogant HOA president versus Judge Lauren Whitmore. That wasn't just good television. That was a guaranteed explosion waiting to happen. The atmosphere changed instantly when Judge Lauren entered the courtroom. Conversations stopped. Even the camera operators seemed more focused. Lauren Whitmore didn't need to raise her voice to command authority. She had spent over 25 years dismantling liars, exposing manipulators, and reducing arrogant people to silence with nothing more than sharp questions and colder truths. People feared her courtroom for one reason. Judge Lauren could smell dishonesty almost immediately. But Karen Mitchell either didn't know that, or thought she was smarter than everyone else who had failed before her. She smiled sweetly as Lauren took her seat. "Good morning, Your Honor," Karen said with exaggerated politeness. "Hopefully we can move through this quickly. I have an HOA board meeting later this afternoon." A few audience members exchanged looks. Judge Lauren didn't react. "We'll take the time necessary," she replied calmly. "Now explain why you brought this case." Karen straightened a stack of papers dramatically. "This is a simple issue regarding community standards," she began smoothly. "The defendant repeatedly violated landscaping regulations despite receiving multiple warnings. She refused to comply and ignored the penalties outlined in our HOA agreement." Her voice carried the polished confidence of someone used to never being questioned. At HOA meetings, Karen controlled every conversation, every vote, every decision. She expected this courtroom to work the same way, but Lauren Whitmore simply watched her, quietly, carefully. And Karen made her first mistake. She confused silence with agreement. Across the room, Lillian Cortez sat with trembling, hands folded in her lap. Exhaustion covered her face. Not physical exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. The kind that builds slowly after years of being targeted by someone who enjoys making your life miserable. Judge Lauren turned toward her. "How long has this been happening, Mrs. Cortez?" Lillian swallowed hard before answering. Almost 3 years, Your Honor. Her voice cracked slightly. I've paid over $8,000 in fines already. Every time I fixed one problem, she found another. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Even the bailiff raised an eyebrow. Karen noticed the reaction immediately. For half a second, something flashed behind her eyes. Concern. But it disappeared quickly beneath another smug smile. Some people simply don't respect rules, she muttered under her breath. The microphones caught every word, so did Judge Lauren. And that's when the courtroom began changing. Because Karen didn't stop talking. She interrupted constantly, corrected explanations, argued over interpretations. At one point, she even attempted to explain HOA law to the judge herself. Then came the laugh again. Loud, dismissive, arrogant. The audience visibly recoiled from it. Judge Lauren leaned slightly forward. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said quietly, "you may want to choose your words more carefully." Most people would recognize the warning. Karen Mitchell wasn't most people. She laughed again, actually laughed at the judge. "Relax, Your Honor," she said dismissively. "You don't need to threaten me. I understand how the law works." The courtroom went silent, completely silent. The bailiff subtly shifted his posture. Even the camera crew froze. Judge Lauren didn't respond immediately. She simply stared at Karen with the kind of patience that felt dangerous. Then finally, she spoke, slowly, carefully. "I don't issue threats, Mrs. Mitchell," Lauren said. "I issue rulings." A ripple moved through the audience, but Karen still didn't understand what was happening. Because Karen Mitchell had spent too many years winning, too many years humiliating people who couldn't fight back, too many years believing authority protected her from consequences. So instead of backing down, she doubled down. "With respect," Karen said smugly, "HOA law is a bit more specialized than standard small claims matters. Most judges don't really understand how these communities operate." A collective gasp spread across the courtroom. Karen had just implied that Judge Lauren Whitmore, one of the most feared courtroom judges in the country, didn't understand the law. The audience looked horrified. But Lauren? Lauren stayed calm. That was the terrifying part. Her face barely changed. Only her eyes hardened slightly. Anyone familiar with her courtroom knew exactly what that look meant. The storm had started. "Are you suggesting," Lauren asked quietly, "that I'm unqualified to interpret the law?" Karen smiled wider. "I'm saying HOA matters are complex. I've served as president for 8 years. I've studied the property code thoroughly." Judge Lauren said nothing. That silence became unbearable. Karen mistook it for hesitation. "This case isn't about emotions," she continued confidently. "It's about maintaining standards. If residents ignore rules whenever they want, property values collapse. My responsibility is protecting this community." She looked around the courtroom expecting approval. Instead, she found silence, cold silence. Even Lillian Cortez had stopped trembling now, because something strange was happening. For the first time in years, Karen Mitchell was losing control of the room. Judge Lauren leaned back slowly. "You believe your actions are justified?" "Absolutely. And the law supports you?" "Yes." Lauren allowed another long pause before raising one hand slightly. "This is not your HOA meeting, Mrs. Mitchell," she said calmly. "This is my courtroom. And speaking here is a privilege, not a right." Quiet applause broke out across the gallery. Karen's cheeks flushed red, but she forced another brittle laugh. "I've dealt with worse threats from my board members." That was the moment everything changed. Judge Lauren leaned forward again. And this time, her voice turned cold. "This isn't a threat," she said. "It's a warning." Karen's smile weakened slightly. Lauren opened a folder sitting beside her bench, a folder Karen hadn't noticed before. "And if you continue speaking the way you are," Lauren continued quietly, "we may need to discuss your own records." The room froze. Karen blinked. "What does that mean?" Judge Lauren didn't answer immediately. Instead, she slowly pulled several documents from the folder. Bank statements, financial reports, HOA filings. Karen's expression changed instantly. For the first time all morning, she looked nervous. Lauren glanced down at the papers briefly before looking back up. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said calmly, "during recess, my staff reviewed several public financial records connected to Willow Creek Estates." Karen's confidence cracked. Only slightly, but everyone saw it. And then Lauren delivered the sentence that changed the entire case. "What we found," she said quietly, "raises very serious questions." The audience erupted into whispers, Karen's face drained of color. And for the first time since entering the courtroom, Karen Mitchell stopped laughing. But Judge Lauren Whitmore wasn't finished, not even close. Because hidden inside those financial records was something far worse than HOA violations, something that could destroy Karen Mitchell's entire life. And as the cameras continued rolling, Judge Lauren slowly turned the next page, then looked directly at Karen. "Tell me something, Mrs. Mitchell." Her voice lowered. "How long have you been stealing from your own neighborhood?"